in 2010, 70% of the people were satisfied with the NHS.
Right.
Now, only 24% of
Right.
people. So in 10 years, we've gone from 70% satisfaction with the NHS to 24%.
To 24.
And is it surprising?
No.
Is it surprising? The NHS is in chaos. The NHS is no longer a public service for the people anymore.
It hasn't been for decades. All that's happening now is it's about to collapse.
Yes.
So the service has been getting worse and worse and worse every decade of my life. And you can see it tilting and tilting and tilting, but it's still managing to, and it's tilting, and it looks like now it's going to, it can't cope anymore.
Yeah.
With immigration, with the fact it's now, we want the NHS to do everything for us. It was never built to do everything for us. New medicines have come along, new procedures come along. We expect it to do absolutely everything, and it can't be done. And an extra 10 million people in the country, it's a mess.
The waiting lists are now something like, is it 7 million or something ridiculous?
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Half my family work in the NHS.
Yeah.
It's the biggest employer in Europe, the
Yeah.
NHS. And the stories they tell me, from incompetence to mistakes to, they all hate working there. Not one of them of my family work in the NHS. God, you know what, I really like working in the NHS. They don't. It's a mess. I don't know what the answer is, but the services are getting worse and worse and worse and worse.
So interestingly, Labour have actually, and I think this was last week, Labour have come out and said the NHS needs support from the private sector. I don't know if you saw that article.
No.
So what is strange is that Labour, and you wouldn't answer, are actually basically acknowledging that there's some private element needs bringing into the NHS, which is the complete opposite of what you would think.
What they mean by that is they're going to want the waiting list down. So what they mean by that is we'll palm off the waiting lists to private hospitals. We'll pay the private hospitals.
Oh, right, so it's just more money, throwing more money at it.
Yeah, that's exactly what they'll mean and exactly what they do.
Yeah.
And once we got the list down, it's back to normal, isn't it?
Yes.
They're wedded. All our political parties are wedded to the NHS.
Yeah.
And for any of them to change it, the NHS has to get a lot worse than it is today.
Yeah. So let's assume that by sheer chance on May the 3rd, you're not only elected Mayor of Greater Manchester, but you're also elected the Prime Minister by some mistake in the polling process and the wrong election. How would you fix the NHS, Mr. Buckley, mayoral candidate?
The first thing we need to do with the NHS is we need to have a national discussion about what we want out of the National Health Service, what we're willing to pay for, and how it works. Until we have that conversation with the people, it's unchangeable. So, I don't see why abortions are on the NHS. I don't know why breast implants are on the NHS. I don't know why test tube babies are on the NHS. And my granddaughter
IVF,
got IVF on the NHS and so I love it to bits, but we shouldn't be paying for that on the NHS. I had a friend who was a semi-professional footballer, and he was at the hospital about his knees and ankles usually twice a week, and he was being paid to play football, and the NHS were picking up his tab to fix him all the time. We should be doing that. There's many things the NHS is doing we shouldn't be doing. We need to get back to basics, which is emergencies. So A&E, you've been run over, so anything like that, saving life there and then, that's part of the job. And then we need to look at what else we do. So is it cancer treatment? Is it that? Is it the other? How much money what do we do with people whose lifestyle is making them bankrupt the NHS? So what do we do with people with type 2 diabetes? So fatty. You're costing us a fortune because you won't stop eating. How much responsibilities does the NHS have on you now? What do we do with the someone who's into dangerous sports and they're constantly the NHS with ankles and knees, they're hurting themselves, and we go, no, you need to take private health insurance because we're not going to treat you anymore because of your part-time adventures, cliff climbing cliffs. So and my list will be different from people's up, but we need to get a consensus in the country what we want it to do, what we can afford, and what we're willing to pay for. Because without what we're willing to pay for, everybody will say, let it do everything, just give it more money. But giving it more money isn't the answer. And if it is the answer, how much more tax do you want to pay? And once you put it to people like that, people then go, oh, right, I've got to pay for it. Of course you've got to pay for it. How much are you willing to pay out of your money?
And is that the reason it works or seems to work in America? Because people are very aware of the fact they have to pay for an element of their...
The American health system is probably the worst in the world.
Really?
Apart from the third world. So the American health system is terrible unless you're rich. So I wouldn't. So we need to stop talking about the American health system, because that puts people off. Because if you're poor in America, there's lots of treatment you can't get. There's some horrendous things happen in America. So let's look at Scandinavia, Germany, and France. They're more like us.
Okay.
They have better systems. They have a system where emergencies are dealt with by the state, but people buy insurance. The state can top up your insurance, but it's all done in partnership with the private sector. And just like all insurances, you'll pay less if you look after yourself. Just like if you get a small 1 litre car, you'll pay less car insurance than you would if you got a 4 litre sports car. So it makes people over time, it makes them select better choices and puts personal responsibility on them. We should never get to a stage where you can't get insurance because you're too fat, you're too ill. There needs to be some socialist idea there that we do help each other out, but we need to reward better lifestyles and better choices. Yeah. Our system doesn't work at all.
I think, yes, it is something to do with the private sector, but I'm kind of, as I think I am a socialist, so my idea is, if you're fat, I don't think you should be penalised for being fat. Human nature, the essence for society is it cares for society, doesn't it? All elements of society. If somebody's overweight for whatever reason, whether they can't, they may have a lower IQ, so they can't control themselves as much, I don't think they should be penalised for being overweight. It's like...
So if I don't want to work at all, you're happy paying my universal credit, are you?
If you don't want to work at all? No, I didn't say that.
No, but that's the equivalent.
No, because I think...
You're going to pay for me to make poor choices that I don't want to work and certain benefits. You're quite happy paying for that.
But some people can't help putting on weight, Nick, as you and I both know.
No, it's all down to personal choice.
Right.
So we need to stop removing personal choice and personal responsibility from people going, oh, you're fat because you're stupid. Well, here's 4 other stupid people. They're all skinny. Yeah. So it's not that. It's about... It starts at childhood. Poor behaviours being taught by poor parents, making poor choices, never any consequences to making those poor choices, so they don't learn, they carry on making those poor choices. They then have children and teach them exactly the same.
Okay, but let's look at us two. I think it's fair to say, looking at us two, we're not at our fighting weights at the moment.
No, but we're both in our 50s.
Yes. Well, I'm slightly older, but yes, yes. Okay. Yes, so should you be penalised because you're in your 50s and you've not been maybe keeping yourself as slim and toned as you should have done?
I should pay more for health cover than a 19-year-old who's fit and plays football every weekend.
Why?
Because I'm more likely to be ill.
Yes, but that's not your fault, is it?
That's not my fault.
It's because you're of an age now. You've reached.
I'm more likely to use those services, so therefore, if I'm getting private insurance, of course there's going to be more of a premium on me.
Yes.
But if I knew that all my life, I may have made some better choices. There may be incentives for me at an annual checkup to go, Mr. Buckley, you're 16 stone, you've now gone to category 4 with this payment plan, but if you were down to 13 stone, Mr. Buckley, you would be on tier 1. Here's a good story for you. I set one of my first businesses up when I was late teens, early 20s, and I got a grant off the Prince's Trust and set up a business with it. And one of the perks was they had a deal with an insurance company, I can't remember the name of the insurance company now, and they gave me free life insurance. Every year, until the year I didn't pass their test, their physical test. So for the first couple of years I passed the test. And it was a treadmill, it was listening to your heart, and it was all stuff like that. But it was free cover in case I died. So I took it. And the year I failed the test, I went to a private hospital. I'm on the running machine. I'm all wired up. And the nurse says to me, cheeky little maid she was, I'm in my mid-20s, and she goes to me, Mr. Buckley, we've got good news and bad news. I went, oh, what's the bad news? She went, you failed your fitness test, so you won't be eligible for the free insurance anymore. I went, oh, what's the good news? Well, we've now realised who's at all the pies. I was like, talk about being fun. I mean, yeah. We were flirting a little bit, but so it was. But I thought, that's never left me that. So, incentives and telling people are doing things wrong will change behaviour. Not everybody, but over a society will start changing behaviours. Rewarding people for making poor choices only encourages people to make poor choices.
If they have the capability to understand they are making poor choices. Not everybody does. That's probably where you and I differ with our views.
No, I think you're being a little bit unfair to people. I think you're being a little bit condescending to people.
Maybe.
If you like that video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell and comment. And if you like what I'm saying about running for Mayor of Greater Manchester, then stick around. Tell your family, tell your friends. The only way I'm going to have a chance of winning is a grassroots movement. So be part of that movement and hit that bell. Thanks.